Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Way Media.
Welcome back to Midnight Viewing. I am your host, Father Malone, and joining me once again, all the way from Noise Junkies, all the way from the Sunshine Cab Company, Mr. HP. How are you, HP?
I'm doing great, man. We're on a roll here. Fusco Fest continues apace.
Yeah, you said it. This is an unexpected film festival. HP and I found ourselves mutual lovers of the film Crossroads, and then in discussing that, we discovered we kind of like everything Mr. John Fusco has written. So here we go. This is actually our third film in the series. We're going in chronological order. So we did Crossroads, followed immediately by Young Guns, followed now by Young Guns 2.
It is therefore considered by the court that William H. Bonney be hanged till he be dead, dead, dead.
You can go to hell, hell, hell. Buenos tardes, amigos.
You're not dead.
Do I look dead?
The entire country is reading about our territory every day in the journals.
Should we give him a proper burial?
And they're not reading about our growth towards statehood.
I never stole a horse from someone I didn't like.
Now you just kill him.
What they are reading about is a 21-year-old delinquent.
What scum?
Who is making us look like imbeciles.
Politicians, bankers, cattle kings, scum.
I got 18 dimes in each barrel, boy.
You're starting to believe what they're writing about you, aren't you? Oh, Bob! You wrote a 15-year-old boy straight into his grave.
Goodbye, Bob. Best $1.80 I ever spent.
And the rest of us, straight to hell.
I don't take to tenderfoots in my gang.
It ain't your gang, Dave.
That's how you're a thief.
$1,000, Mr. Garrett.
To catch one.
And all the resources you need to carry out the extermination
Just playing the game, Doc.
of one William H. Bonney.
Even their horses are crazy. We'll give them a game, all right.
They're starting to surround us. We gotta get out of here.
Dave, it's your gang.
What? It ain't my gang. It's your gang. It's always been your gang.
Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, Balthazar Getty, Alan Ruck, James Coburn, and William Peterson as Pat Garrett.
Yoo-hoo. I'll make you famous.
Young Guns 2.
HP, if you were to come up with a subtitle for Young Guns 2, what might you have decided on?
A subtitle? Young Guns 2, way better than the first one. I don't know. You caught me off guard there. What would your, I think this is a rhetorical question you've asked me because you have a subtitle in mind. So why don't you tell me your subtitle?
Well, I think the natural one would be Blaze of Glory, correct?
That's true. There was an original subtitle to this movie.
Actually, there is. See, as much as it would make sense because of the popular song by John Bon Jovi, the actual subtitle for this film is Hell Bent for Leather.
That's it. Yeah.
They chose not to use it. Now, that's a phrase I've always loved. I remember it being used by Martini Ranch in their song Reach. Remember Bill Paxton's new wave band from the mid-'80s with that video directed by Jim Cameron?
He was headed for the future, running from his past, looking for adventure, riding hard and fast. Hell bent for leather, foaming at the bit, saddle sore and weary, in a three-way split. Oh, yeah! When the shadow of the night came on.
See, but when I think of Hellbent for Leather, I think of Judas Priest. And there's not much of an association between Young Guns and Judas Priest, Rob Halford. So I'm glad they didn't. I mean, Young Guns 2 it's not especially interesting. Blaze of Glory, I think you're right, would have probably been the best alternate subtitle for the movie. I think that works beautifully.
Well, here's the thing. Hellbent for Leather, what does it mean? I looked it up. There are two opposing thoughts with the etymology of the phrase. Now, the first one, of course, is hellbent. Now, that phrase has been around forever. Hellbent just means barreling forward without any thought or care for one's own safety. But for leather, where does that come from? The popular opinion is it just means it's reference to the saddle. You're riding the saddle hard. You're hell-bent for leather. You're riding the range all fast. Whereas there is this other theory that an animal that is so hell-bent on continuing its particular behavior that it might as well offer itself up to be hided and turned into leather. So if that is the definition and the reason John Fusco chose it, then I think it is wildly more appropriate than Blaze of Glory.
That would have made sense, but in my little tiny brain, I still would have seen Rob Halford riding out onto a stage on a motorcycle with his leather garb.
Hellbent for leather. Hellbent for leather.
So it still would have been a little bit of friction there in my mind, but yeah, I love your explanation of the etymology of the term. I never knew that.
Is there any more or less friction than the association with Academy Award nominated song Blaze of Glory by popular heavy metal ? Remember when the question was still in the air? Is he a heavy metal guy?
No, not 100% no. I hate the term hair metal because it just seems so much more reductive and it conjures up images of one-hit wonders.
We're just talking about Poison when we say hair metal.
Yeah, pretty much glam metal. But I would think Bon Jovi's more in like pop metal because the thing about heavy metal is that everything is dominated and driven by the guitars, right? The riff. Whereas I would submit that Bon Jovi and their ilk, it's more about the vocal harmonies and the vocal melodies, right? When you think of a song like Wanted Dead or Alive, you're not necessarily thinking of the guitars first. You're thinking of the melody, the singing is so strong in the chorus. So I think to me, that's where the dividing line is. One is about guitars and one's more about the sweet harmonies, the vocals.
I'll second that. Now, before we go any further with Young Guns 2, I do have to address one thing that I forgot to mention when we talked about Young Guns. This is absolutely germane to nothing to do with the film or the filmmakers or anything, just a personal thing of mine where in my youth, I was friends with a fella who every time I would go out to eat with him, when we sat down, if he saw the waiter or waitress approaching with our food, he would say to me from across the table, "Could have killed you, but I don't want to kill you, Dick. I want to eat." For decades, he did that. Okay, anyway. Young Guns
Who is that?
2.
Was that someone I knew? Was that someone I knew?
No, you didn't know him.
Okay. I was searching back through our shared friends. I couldn't think of anyone who would do that, but that's pretty funny.
Released on August the 1st, 1990, starring Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, William Peterson, Alan Ruck. My God, it's a murderer's row. I thought the first movie had a cast. Alan Ruck, R.D. Call, James Coburn, Balthazar Getty, Jack Keogh, Robert Nepper, Viggo Mortensen, and Bradley Whitford. Oh, and Scott Wilson as Governor Lewis Wallace. By the way, Governor Lou Wallace, of course, wrote Ben-Hur. A fine tradition in the Wallace family of being really creative. Anyway.
Is he a distant relative?
I don't know. My name is Malone. With a
Yeah,
budget
that's
of $20 million, with a budget of $20 million, it eventually grossed a worldwide 44 and $44 million. Is it a bona fide hit? I say it is, no matter what happens. This is a fucking great movie. HP, what's your first experience with Young Guns 2?
Unlike the first movie, this one I saw in the theater, which it's interesting when you talk about the box office gross. We live kind of in a time where if a movie like a Marvel movie doesn't gross $500 trillion, then it's not a success. So when you say it like that it sounds like a modest success, but at the time, if memory serves, it was very much in the cultural zeitgeist because the Bon Jovi song Blaze of Glory was all over MTV. It was Academy Award nominated, like you said, for God's sake. Yeah, I saw this in the movies, and since I wasn't necessarily like that into Westerns at the time, it must have been a pretty big deal for me to want to go see it in the movies, to take the time to see it. So I saw it, and I'm damn glad I did, because this is every bit more vibrant and bigger in scope, bigger in pretty much everything we'll get into than the first movie. So I was glad to see it in the movies.
Before we go further, we mentioned the cast, but I want to also mention the filmmakers. Obviously, John Fusco wrote this one. He wrote the first one. This one not directed by the first film's filmmaker. This one is directed by Geoff Murphy, New Zealand's owned Geoff Murphy. He did a ton of second unit work on all of the Lord of the Rings movies, but long before that, well, he did Dante's Peak eventually. He would eventually do Free Jack after this, which I love that movie. But in 85, he did The Quiet Earth, which is fantastic. In 83, he did Utu, also just... Anyway, Geoff Murphy, a superior filmmaker in every single way. Everything that lacked in the first film is completely made up for here, because he is a muscular filmmaker, and something about coming from Australia helps. I don't know what it is, but he understands our landscapes and wants to show it to us in a way that maybe we hadn't seen since John Ford, or at least in a different way than had been presented originally by John Ford.
Agreed. For me, this movie seems more vibrant, more widescreen, for lack of a better term. The first movie might have been more authentic in tone and story. We talked about how accurate it was seen back when it came out, but this one is more of a classic film Western. I heard interviews with Estevez where he said he wanted it to be more like the Westerns that he grew up with. And he felt the first movie didn't quite measure up in those terms. So I think it just feels brighter, more exciting. The action, like you said, is more powerful, more muscular. I love that term. Everything is just bigger, funnier, more exciting, better. There's actually, by the way, before I go on, there's actually an interesting thematic tie-in with that. I was thinking about this as I'm watching this. So there's a wraparound story to this movie, which sets it apart from the first one. It's this old man, Brushy Bill Roberts is his name.
Correct.
He's meeting with an attorney played by Bradley Whitford. He wants the governor to give him a pardon because he was owed a pardon. He's claiming to be the real Billy the Kid, but he's old. He's an old man. He's like in his 90s, I think, when this wraparound story takes place. And effectively what you have is this lawyer played by Bradley Whitford wants evidence that this is the actual Billy the Kid. So what you have is the movie is him telling the story of him being Billy the Kid and going on these adventures. What I love about the fact that this is bigger, brighter, and more vibrant than the first one is it's partly because I think it's Bill telling this story, and of course he's going to be embellishing it for the benefit of this lawyer. So in my mind, that's a good reason why it's so much more brighter and more exciting and more widescreen than the first movie, is because Bill is an unreliable narrator and he's going to gild his story and make it more exciting, hence more interesting, more punchy than the first movie. That's how I saw it. What did you think, Father Malone?
I think including old Billy the Kid as his own story's narrator not only allows for a grander canvas of the story to be told, but it taps back into what I like about Westerns to begin with, which is the idea of tales told round a campfire. It is part and parcel with all of Western lore. The Coen brothers made an entire film about Western storytelling. And here it is delivered as you said, it allows for any historical inaccuracies or liberties taken to be written off handily, which is a nice little parlor trick, but not what makes it great. What makes it great is, first of all, it's based on an actual event. There was a brushy Bill Roberts who did attempt to secure a pardon as Billy the Kid in the 1950s, in 1950. So it's not only that's historically accurate, and not only does it allow Billy to aggrandize himself in the telling of his own tale, but we get this Western tradition of storytelling in general, and it allows for a fucking, just on a fucking purely technical level, a fucking great old age makeup on Emilio Estevez at the beginning of this movie. It's spectacular, man. I thought like Dick Smith had done it. It looked that good. It was little big man quality.
It's so good. It's easy to see. I mean, another thing I gathered in my research was that the director wasn't entirely sure if they should use Estevez in the makeup or go with an old man, because he didn't know if he could pull it off. But my God, when you see him in that old age makeup, he is unrecognizable as the young, vital Emilio Estevez. It's such an amazing makeup job.
And here's why they needed Emilio Estevez in the role, because the only thing that's going to betray it is the voice, because the makeup is so fucking good. And his voice is so great. I forget how much he narrates in the movie and how much I enjoy it. And particularly what I enjoy is that this is a standalone movie. It's the Young Guns too, but there is absolutely zero necessity to, if you've seen any of the first film. And that's in large part thanks to Bill's narration. I mean, he lets us know who everyone is, and he's introducing us to characters anyway that we weren't really privy to in the first film.
That's true. I mean, it'll enrich your experience if you're familiar, because obviously he's reintroducing you to Doc Scurlock and Chavez. So it's great, but you're right. It is kind of its own self-contained story, and you're not going to have a trouble following the movie if you haven't seen the first one. It works on its own.
So what do you think? Was brushy Bill Roberts actually William H. Bonney? Did Patrick Garrett shoot another man entirely in the presence of McIntyre and John W. Poe? John W. Poe was said to have, they were the only two witnesses to the actual shooting of Billy the Kid, and it was in a darkened room. And John W. Poe is said to have said immediately following, "You shot the wrong man."
It's certainly possible. I mean, I guess when he pleaded his case, there were still some surviving associates of Billy the Kid that testified on his behalf, saying, yes, this is the actual Billy the Kid. If nothing else, it makes for a wonderful kind of little myth. What was he or wasn't he? It could be. If you're asking what I personally believe, and I'm someone who likes myths, I think there's a good chance that he was the actual Billy the Kid. I mean, who's to say?
I want it so badly to be true. However, one witness said that brushy Bill Roberts was illiterate and he knew Billy the Kid, and Billy the Kid could read and write.
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't know that part.
And he said Billy was more than functional with Spanish, and they said brushy Bill Roberts could basically string a few words together.
I don't know. I wonder what Fusco believes. Has he ever talked about whether he believes that it's true or not? Because it It's an interesting question that he poses.
I have not spoken to him about that. But hey, everybody, we have spoken to John Fusco. He's apparently we're fans of his. I don't know. Is he listening to the show? I don't know. If he is, hi, John, Mr. Fusco.
Hello.
I don't mean to be
Love
so
the
fucking
movies.
familiar with you, but we have spoken to him. He referred to us as pals, and I'm going to take that to the grave.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for the support, John. Appreciate it. If you're listening, of course. But yeah, I think it's certainly possible. I don't know. It's a little sad. I mean, he died not long after he pled his case to the governor, right?
Not long after he was denied the case by the governor, certainly.
I think it's a brilliant device by Fusco to add that wraparound story because, like you said, it enriches the storytelling altogether.
We'll get to William Petersen because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Patrick Floyd Garrett. Let's talk our newest member of the gang, the leader of the gang, according to him, Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, played by Christian Slater, a star on the rise circa 1990. Who is that young man who speaks like Jack Nicholson and is so handsome? That Helen Slater's actual brother? Because they were in that movie together.
He was probably never bigger than he was at this point, Father Malone, because he had already done Heathers, which was star making, especially for people of our age. I probably saw Heathers 5 times in the theater. I loved it. He was about to have Pump Up the Volume released, which was another seminal Christian Slater movie. So he was a very welcome sight for me because he was really a star on the rise, maybe the biggest star on the rise in this picture, the one who was on the sharpest ascent, if you will. And I got to say, I can't comment on how authentic his performance is, but I can tell you that to me, he seems to be the most effortless. He just is so smooth. His delivery for somebody, this is maybe his 3rd or 4th movie. Like it's not as if he was a huge star at this point. He's so fucking charismatic and he's so smooth and he's funny and he pulls off the action really well. I think he is terrific in this movie.
They end up trying to paint him as a bit ineffectual, but because it's Christian Slater, he seems to be an actual contender for leadership of that gang. It's as you said, he seems to have moved effortlessly into this film. He seems like he's always been there, like he was part of the Lincoln County War that we somehow never saw. And just flushed with confidence. It's kind of crazy. He's just a movie star, effectively. But at the same time, giving a fucking really good performance because Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh is a cocksucker. Like, yeah. That's the switcheroo here. Is like we're giving Christian Slater and his endless charm layered on top of a completely self-obsessed and just downright nasty human being. Much worse than Dirty Steve.
Well, and that's one thing that I wanted to ask you about because Dirty Steve, as we talked about in the previous episode of Young Guns, he is portrayed in the movie as the dirtiest, smelliest, most disgusting and cowboy. And it's my understanding that Dave Rudabaugh was supposed to be every bit as filthy, who refused. He had an aversion to water, so he wouldn't bathe. That's the only thing that I don't get from Christian Slater's performance. Like he doesn't slather on the grime and the filth the way that Dermot Mulroney did. But I guess that's quibbling historically, I suppose.
I understand that he was also known as Dirty Dave Rudabaugh, but I've heard that was applied after his death. So is that just sour grapes on some people's parts? Oh, you know what else about him? He never bathed. Yeah, that Dave Rudabaugh, he never bathed. He wasn't Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh. He was Dirty Dave Rudabaugh.
That's so good.
By the way, HP, before we go any further, I do 3 impressions. One of them is in this film. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Fixing to get 100 doggies for his trigger finger.
You do a pretty good Owen Wilson, too. I will say that.
I don't do an Owen Wilson.
You do. Wow.
Yeah, but everyone does wow. That's not.
But you do it well.
I don't count that as one of my 3 impressions. One of them is guy who dies first in Young Guns 2.
He is literally the first guy shot by Billy.
Okay, so that's Mr. Christian Slater. Now, before we get to William Petersen as Patrick Floyd Garrett, Alan Ruck as William Hendry French.
So good. So the name is great too. Hendry William French. He just sounds like such a, in their parlance, a tenderfoot, but he has this wonderful hangdog quality that really adds a lot to the picture, because this picture doesn't suffer for a lack of confidence and charisma with all of the leads. And Hendry comes in because they're trying to raise men to form another gang so they can kind of complete this trek. And he's the only one they could find. He's just a broken down farmer whose wife had died to the smallpox, and his farm was taken by Chisum, who we meet James Coburn's character. He's I don't know, there's something so sweet. It's a little bit like we talked about in the first picture, Duck Scurlock, watching all the horrors of Billy and his sort of rampage play across this poor individual. That's a little bit of that with Hendry William French also, because he kind of comes in, the first time he tries to pull his rifle, he fumbles it and almost gets Billy killed essentially, but he's such a sweet guy. You're kind of afraid for him and whether he's going to make it in the company of all these desperate men. So I think it's a side of him that we didn't see prior to this, and I love it.
He's a farmer. He has absolutely no business being with these men.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is part of the Old West. These are part of the cowboys we've been mythologizing. And here's part of the greatest mythology, a cowboy telling his own story. And even he can't skimp over the fact that there were a lot of desperate human beings back then. And I think nobody embodies that better than Alan Ruck. He, better than anyone in the first film, like the tragedy of the Charlie Beaudry, Casey Simasco character doesn't hold a candle to what's going on here. It's sad that Charlie Beaudry got shot and his wife was widowed. It's a fucking tragedy that Henry French is still alive after he's lost everything and has now found himself among lunatics and desperate men.
But he's so redeemable. I mean, he basically, spoiler alert, helps save Chavez at the end, although Chavez meets his own maker. But there's this scene where him and Chavez are riding away, and he's trying to keep Chavez going, even though Chavez is dying moment by moment. And there's a really likable quality to Alan Ruck that I think shines through really well in this picture.
Absolutely. He doesn't need a nickname anymore. Thank you. Now, other members of the cast, Balthazar Getty shows up as Tom O'Folliard. Now, that is a historical figure, Tom O'Folliard, the younger man who ends up being shot by Pat Garrett. He wasn't 12. What they're doing here is, I think what Fusco is doing here is they've turned this character into the audience in a way, or what the impact was of the legend of Billy the Kid. It's actually drawing people to him. And they play with that a lot in this film. Like they sort of, even Billy says it a few times, I'll make you famous. He knows full well the level of fame he has achieved and the level of renown and what it's doing. They're writing books about him. This kid is mesmerized by the myth of Billy the Kid. Evidently, the actual human was in his 20s, but still pretty young, I suppose.
But he was much more of a contemporary of Billy than this wide-eyed naif that gets caught up in the gang and meets an untimely end. He was a young man, let's say.
Indeed, he was. Well, they look gonna get some fictionalization here in this retelling of the story. Jack Kehoe, HP. I love Jack Kehoe.
He's awesome. He's the bookkeeper.
Get donuts. In Midnight Run, Jack Kehoe is the Joey Pants. He's the mole who keeps reporting to the mob all of Robert De Niro's movements throughout the United States. And my fucking God, he's in one of the greatest scenes in cinema history. Brian De Palma's ode to the Battleship Potemkin on the step scene at the end of Untouchables. He's the bookkeeper.
So good. So good. Jack Kehoe is great in this. I forgot how great he is. I can't speak to the veracity of the character or any of that, but he's comic relief. He's funny and he lightens up because he's effectively part of the group led by Pat Garrett to try and track down Billy and bring him to justice. And Pat Garrett,
recognizing the effortlessness with which Billy has achieved fame, needs to do it himself. And so hires his own biographer. Once again, just Fusco like pulling in all of the myth and the storytelling and the self-mythologizing that's going on here in the Old West that we're still feeling to this day.
It's a great little character bit because Pat Garrett's not above a little bit of self-aggrandizing of his own. He knows that this could be an important story. He wants to burnish his own legend. So yeah, he hires his own biographer to come but he's, again, in the parlance of the characters, he's the tenderest foot of the bunch. He can't ride for a mile without having to, what does he call it, take a movement? Basically take a shit.
He's on top of a horse now for the first time in his life, basically, for any length of time. I bet he rode in a wagon to get to his little office.
Yeah, but he's really good. I could say this about everybody, but he's fantastic.
Now, before we get to the genius of William Petersen, that is Patrick Floyd Garrett, Viggo Mortensen. This was my first experience with Viggo Mortensen. I'm sure it was yours. Now, when we talked about Young Guns, I mentioned that as a kid, I thought that the Dirty Steve character was the one I was drawn to most because it felt like the most realistic of the cowboy characters presented to us. In this film, it was John W. Poe, played by Viggo Mortensen. He looks like he fucking walked off of a daguerreotype.
So good. He's a great counterpoint to Pat Garrett because there's this doubt in your mind as to whether Pat Garrett is actually really going after Billy or if he's letting him kind of slip away and out of friendship. I know the friendship was kind of invented for the movie, but Poe is the one who calls out Pat Garrett and says, "What are you doing? He'll be long gone. Are you sure you want to get this guy? You know what? You're just leading us on a wild goose chase." But the best line that he has is, of course, when Tom is dying, having been shot by Pat Garrett. And I think this was historically accurate too. What does he say to the kid as he's lying there dying?
Take your medicine, son. That is a historically accurate line. I've seen it portrayed in other films. I believe it's also in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, where John W. Poe is portrayed much more of a brutish character, just like a leg breaker almost. Here he seems like a man of letters who has found himself out there. And yes, he definitely is the actual lawman, it seems here. Pat Garrett is more interested in chasing the kid away than capturing him here. He's trying to force him down to Mexico in here. And yes, I agree that the friendship is a bit more invented here, but these are two humans who evidently had nicknames for one another, and one attended the other's wedding. So yeah, maybe they weren't as compadre as one like is presented overall, but they certainly were buddies. I mean,
yeah, probably. I mean, but it's let's talk a little bit about William Petersen. Like we mentioned.
No, we're not getting to William Petersen, the genius of William Petersen as Patrick Floyd Garrett yet, because we have to talk about other fucking huge fucking cast member in this movie, and that is James Coburn as John Chisum. Because there exists a scene in this movie where Patrick Garrett is seduced by John Chisum in order to get him to chase his old friend down and murder him for money. And James Coburn has already done this scene. He was Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. One could actually take those two scenes and cut them together. James Coburn as John Chisum seducing James Coburn as Pat Garrett.
Well, Fusco even writes a line for Coburn that is a direct callback to Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. So Billy goes to the Chisum ranch, basically trying to shake him down for money so they can go down to Mexico. And Chisum just basically tells him to go fuck off. But the line, I'm going to paraphrase it, is something to the effect of, "You can take that and shove it up your ass and set fire to it." That's literally what he said as Pat Garrett in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. It's a wonderful moment. And Coburn is just the coolest. I mean, come on.
Everything he says is so fucking fantastic in this movie. Don't you do it, Billy. You're Billy the Kid too, Doc. And you, Chavez. And you, guy I don't know.
Yeah, you all are.
I am New Mexico.
You gotta cut that in. That's so good. His sonorous voice.
I'll put in his whole fucking scene here. It's so fucking good, man. He's fucking electric. Everything he does, he's just so magnetic. I could watch James Coburn do anything. Remember in like Flint? Remember the fucking Flint movies? Holy shit, man.
You just killed yourself.
Bonnie, you are a fool. You call yourself the scourge of New Mexico? Well, by God, I am New Mexico. And you are dead.
He did a movie with James Brolin called High Risk. Did you ever see that? It's a good movie. I think it was 1980. James Brolin is basically with a bunch of his buddies, and I think they've lost their jobs. They don't have any money. It's the gas crisis, what have you. So they get this brilliant idea that as a desperation move, they're going to go to some country in South America and rip off a drug dealer and take the money back to America and set themselves up. And James Coburn plays the drug dealer that they try to rip off. And of course, things don't go quite as according to plan. It's not a violent, it's a comedy more or less, but he's really good in it. I mean, he's good in everything. It's James Coburn, for goodness sake.
And the character of John Chisum is sorely missed in the first Young Guns movie. But if you have to wait, it's worth waiting for James Coburn.
Well, Chisum was like an ally of Tunstall, right?
Yeah, that's why they're able to come up on him at all. That's why he's able to be familiar as he is with them. I mean, with Billy is with Chisum, because they were partners at one point, basically. Except,
but you're right.
Except Billy the Kid in this timeline, in these films, was a fucking psychopath who just went around shooting everybody when they were supposed to be bringing justice.
Well, again, we said this about the first movie. Billy the Kid is nothing less than a loose cannon that everybody is afraid of, including the members of his own gang, because they never know what. I mean, this movie, he's a little more sensitive. I think that's a deliberate attempt to make him a little more relatable and more vulnerable. But make no mistake, like he goes to visit Chisum to try to shake him down effectively. And when Chisum basically turns him down flat, Billy basically says to him, "Oh, okay, then I'm just going to murder one of your men for every $5 that you owe me. You owe me $500." And he concocts there's this little bait and switch where it looks like he's going to basically duel one of Chisum's men, duel a gunfight. But it's a bait and switch because he just has Dave Rudabaugh just shoot the guy in cold blood. There's actually no contest. He just sets this thing up, this elaborate ruse of, all right, I'm going to put my guns down here and I'm going to count to 3. And if you get to your gun before I get to mine, you can kill me, but I guarantee you're not going to make it. And he's right. He knows he's not going to make it because he already worked it out with Dave beforehand. Just shoot the guy when I give you the signal.
The two fucking lunatics in the fucking gang are just working together because Doc Scurlock wasn't going to do that, nor was Chavez.
Yeah, because those two are the most damaged from the events of the first movie. They may be happy that Billy rescued them from the pit in Lincoln where they were going to be hanged, but beyond that, they know Billy. They've seen what he can do, what he's capable of.
Okay, so you know what? Before we get to the magnificence that is William Petersen as Patrick Floyd Garrett, HP, let's talk about where our characters are as this movie starts. Now, Chavez, when we meet him, he's in jail, right? That's where we meet him. Started pit. He's been captured. We don't know what he's been up to all these years. The main character that we've returned to here is, of course, Josiah Doc Scurlock, who we find is now a teacher in New York City, all the way across the United States. He's cleaned up. He's got a haircut, right? He's got a natty suit on. He's teaching children. They're having fun.
Yeah, he's teaching them their letters. He looks like a perfectly wonderful teacher. He's like a dandy, basically. He's dressed in a nice suit. Apparently, he got married with the woman from the first picture, and they have a child now. He's settled down.
And they fucking drag him back because Governor Lew Wallace wants to settle all the debts from the Lincoln County War. Basically, he wants Billy the Kid because Billy the Kid is out there making too much of a name for himself, all that fame we mentioned, and that has to stop. So they're going to put everyone on trial, no matter where they are and who they have to pull back. So they pull back Josiah, they pull back Chavez, and what they really want is Billy the Kid. But Billy, when we first meet him, he's off with Patrick Floyd Garrett, played by William Petersen. What'd you think about William Petersen in this movie, HP?
He's awesome. I mean, it's William fucking Petersen. To Live and Die in L.A., I mean, you don't get any cooler than that. He plays... Look, I mentioned that in the previous episode that Pat Garrett is in the first movie. It's not William Petersen, though. It's Patrick Wayne, John Wayne's son. And it's not he appears twice in the movie. It's very small. But he wouldn't have pulled off what William Petersen can pull off in this movie. You have to believe in the bond between Billy and Pat Garrett. you have to see him get seduced and believe that he can do the calculus in his mind of, I'm going to be betraying my friend for what, $1,000 basically. And he's going to become what he despised, which is the law. He's got to clean himself up and become what he beheld. And William Petersen is phenomenal in this.
Yeah, because we see the outlaw and we see the guy who just wants to fucking settle down and have a normal life. And we see the best friend of this kid that he's kind of taken under his wing and had adventures with. And we see the guy who fucking doesn't give a shit about this kid because the kid won't shut up and won't fucking do as he's told. He needs to calm down and just leave for a while. Just calm down and leave, would you? So, and we get that all within the tortured brow of William Petersen. And he's one of those actors that one of the reasons I just love movies is when you can get a close up of an actor and see them thinking. William Petersen is always thinking, man. And this is just like Emilio Estevez is my favorite portrayal of Billy the Kid. This is my favorite portrayal of Patrick Garrett, including James Coburn. And James Coburn's portrayal of him is awesome in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. But William Petersen fills the guy out. He feels real. He doesn't feel like a myth. In this story of stories about stories, everyone here is giving fully grounded, fully realized portrayals. And the casual nature with which Christian Slater just sort of eased his way into this movie, like Petersen does 1,000 times with more grace. Like he feels like he's always been here. He made me think he was in the first movie in those cameos.
Well, and it would be easy for us to dislike Pat Garrett because he's the one who's trying to kill the protagonist, the one that we are supposed to be rooting for. We're supposed to root for Billy to get down below and make it to New Mexico, or to make it to Mexico. But Petersen is so likable, and you can't help but kind of root for him too, even though he's basically doing the government's dirty work to try and take out Billy because he's making too big of a name for himself. He should be still running with Billy and being in the gang, but he made his choice. We don't, but that's probably the best thing for me about his performance is that even when he's doing things that we don't like or support, he does some pretty awful things in the name of the law or in the name of his mission. But you still can't help liking the guy because he's so damn good in this role.
Yeah, this is a character who I'm rooting for. I shouldn't be. He's the antagonist. He's the villain of the piece. And even if this is like the Wild Bunch sort of a situation where, you know, the former comrade is leading the posse against his old army buddies, which is kind of what this is, or that Wild Bunch basically stole that concept.
Billy's an anti-hero, right? So you're supposed to be rooting for him, but we're not. Well, we are, but
that's what's so fucking good about this script.
Yeah.
That's what's so good about this fucking movie is that I'm rooting for the antagonist and protagonist fucking equally. That's ridiculous, particularly considering I came to this movie having seen the first film. So like I've had some at least time for Billy live in my brain a bit and get used to him because he is a much more mellowed character in this film. And I don't think I would have rooted as hard for Lincoln County War Billy as I do this Billy, who has seen action, who now himself actually understands the meaning of the word pals. No one is more excited than him when the gang gets back together, even if the circumstances are fucking horrendous.
He can't contain himself when he finally rescues Doc and Chavez from the pit, pretending to be a lynch mob, right? He can't contain himself. He's so happy to see his old riding buddies. But even the following scene where all he's supposed to be doing is shooting Doc Scurlock's chain, his handcuffs, so that he can be free. He can't stop it. He's like, damn it, it's good to see you, Doc. I'm so happy to see you guys. And Doc's just, can you please just shoot the chain, Billy? But you're right. He's so happy to have the gang back together, these guys that they went to war together, right? And he's happy to just have people there that have his back as he has their back. It's a really nice scene.
There's something to be said about enthusiasm. If a character is a bit joyful and enthusiastic, I'm pretty much going to follow them no matter what they're doing. It's the Ed Wood phenomenon, I think. It doesn't matter what the product is, just so long as they're totally committed and having a great time. And Billy is never having a better time than he is right in this scene. And that the sort of banter and repartee between these guys, it feels so familiar. It feels like they've known each other for fucking ever. We'll get back to Pat Garrett and everything. But Emilio Estevez has never looked better than in this movie. This is it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Looks fucking great, man. He looks like that. I thought his portrayal of Billy in the first film was, like I said, it was my favorite of that up until this. But for some reason, this portrayal of him, the long hair, the sort of open shirt, the kind of like is it a lessening? Is it a softening of the psychosis? He's not as crazy here. He seems a little more playful in this film. And maybe that's historical or maybe it's not. But I really like this version of Billy. And I think Emilio is perfect for this version, a mischievous Billy.
Yeah, but I think that all ties in with 2 points that we made earlier, which is number one, that Estevez wanted a classic Western. And I think his portrayal is much more in line with a classic portrayal of Billy the Kid, of a cowboy. He's not as crazy of a psychopath as he was in the first one, right? But if you're talking about how good he looks and how dashing he is in the part, I'm still going to say that that could be a deliberate choice because, again, this is being told through the prism of Bill Roberts relating this story to the lawyer. So I'm going to put this also in the category of of course he's going to make himself look bigger, better, more handsome, more funny, more heroic, all of those things. It works awesome.
HP, I was working at a movie theater in Somerville, Massachusetts when this movie came out. So I saw this movie a lot. Now, this movie began the month of August and it ended with the directorial debut of Emilio Estevez, Men at Work with Charlie Sheen.
I thought his debut was Wisdom.
His second feature film was Men at Work.
Sorry. I felt the need to break in there. Sorry about that.
Now, they had already, Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez had already been in Young Guns together. But of course, it was a sort of, go ahead.
Sorry, keep talking.
It had been a kind of a different scenario because they weren't playing in any way friends or relations or anything. They were as disparate characters as you could get. So when Men at Work came out, do you remember the trailer for Men at Work? The teaser trailer for Men at Work? It's a slow motion shot, one shot of just the garbage truck going by. And you see that it's like Charlie Sheen driving. And then on the back, it's Emilio Estevez. And basically the beat to When the Levee Breaks is playing, right? And it was just like him and him. That's right, it's coming. And it was fucking awesome. And I was stoked to see it. But the only reason I bring up Emilio Estevez in his directorial, his filmography as a director, in the late 90s, there was this proliferation of, wasn't the 70s porn scene cool? We got like Boogie Nights, and we got Wonderland with Mr. Val Kilmer as John Holmes. And then kind of lost in the shuffle was this TV movie, a Showtime movie called Rated X about the Mitchell brothers, the porn kings of San Francisco who owned a chain of cinemas. And then they started making movies and then they ended up, it was a fucking murderous situation. And so that movie is starring Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, directed by Emilio Estevez, and it is the best fucking summation of the porn scene of that time. Like, Boogie Nights was big and flashy, and everybody fucking loved it, and I did not. And all of those movies fell down. And Emilio Estevez gave us a movie that it's a fucking Showtime movie, so it's like made in Toronto or Canada, basically. It's supposed to be San Francisco. It has no budget at all. It looks great. Anyway, just wanted to point out, if you haven't seen Rated X, everyone go watch Rated X.
I have not. I'll
cover it on Father Malone's Weekly Roundup this week.
Please do. That sounds, I remember it. I don't think I had Showtime at the time, so there's no way I could have seen it, but I remember hearing about it and thinking, oh, that's kind of, but you're right. There was a whole glut of these, the dawn of porn movies and TV movies and things like that. So for me, this got lost in the shuffle, but I will rectify that.
Oh my God. I did not even mention For fuck's sake. Miss Jenny Wright.
Glorious.
You know, when I mentioned Jack Kehoe, and I've mentioned in other podcasts that you and I have done where there was an actor would get a bunch of roles at a certain time and place. And because we were of a certain age and watching cable television all the time, and we're seeing these people all the time, we assumed they were huge and that was going to last forever. Such is the case of Jenny Wright. From about 1982 till about 1990, Jenny Wright seemed to be in a lot of things, and she's great in all of them, and then she disappeared. But thank God she was great in all of those things, including this one. She's got one scene, and all of these actors that we keep mentioning, all these fucking heavy hitters, come in with one scene, and they fucking knock it out of the park. This is a movie where we have half a dozen leads, including 3 leads from the previous movie who all need to be telling our story, a new lead on top of that in his antagonist, and we keep getting fucking awesome character moments sprinkled throughout, including Jenny Wright as a madam at a White Horse who. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to mention. I'm sorry, we'll double back to Jenny Wright in a second. At the beginning, I mentioned that I had a friend who liked to say a phrase from fucking Young Guns to me all the time when I sat down to eat. I don't want to kill you, I just want to eat, right? And in the first film, also, Casey Siemasko's character, Charlie Beaudry, was the first time I heard the word pugilist. So that movie taught me pugilist. This film taught me the phrase, to the manner born, because that's how Doc Scurlock refers to her. He lets her know that she's that special, right? She is to the manner born.
He toasts her.
Absolutely. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And I remember sitting in the theater thinking, I need to look that up when I get out of this theater. Anyway, Jenny Wright.
Was that a real person in real life, Jane Greathouse? Because it makes sense that
you know what, I'm going to say probably, given Fusco's, a lot of the dialogue here for Billy the Kid is taken from like court transcripts and stuff he's actually said about himself and others. So I would not put it past Jane Greathouse being a real human who existed in some form or another.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's really only just the one scene where Billy and the gang essentially just kind of take a time out. They go to this saloon / whorehouse that she is the proprietor of, because she's been friends with Billy and Pat from the past, right? But she's fantastic. She's beautiful. She's tough. She has the greatest kiss off line to the whole town when they've basically burned down. Like Pat Garrett basically betrays her in a really terrible way. I mean, he basically. It's actually an interesting scene because he comes on very sweetly and relates how their sort of naive misadventures when they were young, right? He said there was no law and we were naked as jaybirds and it was beautiful. And she turns it around on him and says, you know what? I'll just give you a little secret. You used to make me hot, Pat Garrett, but now I don't share my bed with the law. And you think that's the kiss off, but then he says something to the effect of, yeah, and I don't associate with whores anymore neither. So ain't we both
This is where
special?
we turn on Patrick Floyd Garrett, played by the fantastic William Petersen.
It's a heel turn. That's exactly what it is, because he could have just walked right out of her whorehouse and said, all right, if I can't get Billy here, if he's gone, whatever, just if you find him, let me know. But he doesn't do that, does he?
No, because he has to burn his past, because she is his tarnished past, and he has to be respectable now. And she's just a reminder of what a fucked up person he is, as fucked up as Billy is. To this day.
Yeah, so he sets fire to her establishment in the name of piousness and morality. I was happy to see that she escapes. It's not as if she died in the conflagration.
I hope she has some money in the bank somewhere or something, and at least a change of clothes buried somewhere.
Well, what I didn't notice the first, 10 times I saw this, is that the great climax to the scene is she walks out of the saloon or whorehouse, and she's come out completely naked to shame the whole town and to just basically shame them because, as she says, they're all hypocrites. Yeah, I mean, they're hypocrites. So she leaves naked. She tells the town, you can kiss my ass. And she drives off. She rides off bareback on a horse. But what I didn't notice was directly following her is essentially like a stagecoach loaded with her belongings, presumably. So that was kind of encouraging. Like, she didn't lose everything in the fire. She is leaving with everything she can carry to begin again in another town, basically.
Good, because fuck Pat Garrett for that shit, man. You should know better.
That was his, like, that's definitely the moment, to your point, where you're really supposed to hate him. Because up to that point, there was a line that he wouldn't cross when he was trying to take down Billy. And he crossed the line there when he basically burned down her establishment. And now you sort of realize, well, Pat's made his choice and things don't look so good for Billy anymore.
HP, before we get to the magnificence that is the score of this film, just wanted to mention a few other cameos. Notice them in the pit?
Yes.
With Doc Scurlock. Who's down there, buddy?
Well, two people. The one that you actually see a little bit clearer, I think, because he actually has a little bit of an action scene, is John Bon Jovi himself. He is a prisoner who basically tries to strangle one of the deputies, and he ends up getting shot, falls back into the pit, dies presumably. But right next to, as Doc and Chavez are talking about their predicament and how they're going to get out of it, well, it's Mr. John Fusco. He's branded. He has a JC branded on him for John Chisum, presumably.
I thought it was Jesus Christ.
No, I thought I read somewhere that he was branded with John Chisum's initials, basically.
Right. So he was a cattle thief.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool to see him there because we know what he looks like, and there he is.
I believe Nick Gomez, director of Laws of Gravity, is also in the movie somewhere here. And speaking of phrases that I just adored in this screenplay that Fusco throws in, when Billy meets with Governor Lew Wallace and he's told he's going to get a piece of cake, he stops the guy and says, "No, the one with the sweet frost." So now anytime I eat a vanilla cake, I think, ooh, the sweet frost.
I like that too, because that's how they would describe it in the 1800s, right? Not frosting, it's frost, the one with the sweet frost. Yeah. And I love that the butler brings it to him on this beautiful silver dish, basically, and Billy just grabs the cake with his bare hands and just starts eating it.
No, he grabs it with his bare hand, but then he puts out his pinky. He's being fancy.
Well, that, and also, so he makes a deal with the governor. The deal that the governor presents to him is all you have to do is go to Lincoln and testify against the men that killed John Tunstall, and that's all I want. But in return, here's a little detail. I have to make it look like I'm arresting you. I got to make it look like I got to take you in and blah, blah, blah. He's laying a trap for Billy. But in the meantime, while he's still in the company of the governor, has him doing like gun tricks, like tricks with his pistol.
Excellent gun tricks, by the way. Fucking fantastic gun tricks. How is he going to do it with one bullet left?
But he's gathered, the governor has all these other functionaries and people in the government and what have you. And it's like Billy's a trained monkey and they're just like, yay, bravo. Because he shoots like three, like what he uses 5 bullets out of his gun. His revolver have 6 bullets, I assume. And he shoots all but 3 candles on a candelabra. And he says, well, how you got 1 bullet left. Or you got 2 bullets left. What are you going to do? And he shoots the candelabra so it goes sideways. And then the last bullet, he shoots a straight line through. I mean, I assume these guys are that good. They can do that, but it makes for a fun scene for sure.
I don't care if they could or they didn't. And I'm going with Brushy Bill Roberts is telling us this story.
That's again.
And then I spun the candelabra around and then I shot all 3 candles with 1 bullet. Yep.
Yeah. There's another that reminds me of another great bit when he's supposed to be shooting the chain for Doc Scurlock, and he's like, "Hold still, Doc. I got this infection in my elbow that makes my hand go ooh," and he like almost like points the gun at his head. He's so funny and charismatic. I just adore Emilio Estevez in this. He's great.
I know, man. This is my favorite role of his. Honestly, he's so fucking good. He is Billy the Kid. Everyone could just put it away. Okay, fucking Alan Silvestri is the newest addition to this film, and what a welcome addition, delivering for me, HP, I gotta say, my favorite Western score of all time.
It's 150% more authentic than what we got in Young Guns 1, because, I mean, if I'm being honest, it's not totally immune from the sort of a modernization of the score. There's still some drums and
Some
some
electric
electronic
guitars
things.
in there. And you know
Yeah.
what? I love it.
But it works. It feels like a more authentic Western score, like what you would expect from something like, I mean, not to make a direct comparison, but like a Sergio Leone picture, like Once Upon a Time in the West. This feels CinemaScope. This feels big. Silvestri I think he'd already done Back to the Future 3 by this point. So it's not as if he was unfamiliar with the tropes of a Western score. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure John Bon Jovi had some hand in the score. I don't know to what degree, because I think maybe it might be that he's just quoting Blaze of Glory here and there. But the score is awesome. It works for the picture. It makes it feel like a traditional Western. And again, I keep harping on this, but that's what Emilio Estevez and presumably John Fusco wanted for this second picture. They wanted a bigger, better, more fun movie, and that's what they provided. That's what they made.
Yeah, the score is just fucking fantastic. Silvestri, of course, is one of the best composers going out there. I love his Captain America score recently of scores like that. That's the Captain America First Avenger. In fact, he's doing all the Avengers movies now. He's the guy.
For me, if I think about it, he's probably done the score for probably 3 of my top 10 movies of all time, at least, maybe more. For me, one of his most underrated scores is for a movie that he did, a Kevin Reynolds movie called Fandango. Now, you know that it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm not going to, that movie has a lot of songs in it, like actual Carole King and all these musicians. It's not entirely orchestrated music, but the things that he does in that movie are really unique. They're unlike almost anything else in his catalog. So anybody who wants something a little different, a Silvestri score with a little bit of a spin on it, go check out Fandango.
He also basically gave us the sound of the Predator, because the little musical cue you hear every time a Predator shows up is his from the original Predator movie.
Fuck, you're right. Wow, I forgot that he did Predator.
Oh, yes. Death Becomes Her. I mean, the Forrest Gump, for God's sake. The Quick and the Dead. He came back and did another Western, and it doesn't sound like either of his other Westerns. And it's, oh my God. Alan Silvestri cast.
How is it, by the way, how is it? Let me ask a question, being honest here. How is it that maybe it's just me not recognizing this, but how is Alan Silvestri's name not spoken with the same kind of reverence as like a Hans Zimmer or some other composer?
Or
like, why is he
Elfman,
not considered? Or Danny Elfman, exactly. I don't get it. He is a marvelous composer. I don't understand why he's not considered one of the top echelon film composers.
How is Alan Silvestri? He can do anything Danny Elfman can do and anything Hans Zimmer can do and do it better than both of them. How is he not well known? I'm going to guess publicist, lack thereof.
Avengers? We're forgetting Avengers?
He's not out there screaming his own name, man.
It's nuts, but
I think that's what it is. He's not Chuck Jones in it. He's not, hey, everybody, look at me.
Look, everything he does is in the service to the picture. Nothing he does it calls so much attention to itself that it takes you out of the movie. I think that's all you want from a composer, right? Enrich the film experience without calling attention to yourself. I almost can't think of anybody who does it better in those terms than Alan Silvestri.
He also did A Million Ways to Die in the West. That's a terrible movie, but that's a good score.
I didn't know he did so many Westerns. That's fascinating.
Yeah, God bless. And like I said, this score to me is just gorgeous. And I gotta say, for a long fucking time, I was really mad because if you wanted to get the soundtrack to Young Guns 2, you were basically just buying a Bon Jovi record with one track, one paltry little track, Guano Town, of fucking Alan Silvestri. Let me tell you something. That no one was happier that they finally released the score than me.
Well, you know what? Now that we're talking a little bit about the soundtrack, I'm really curious to get your take on the Bon Jovi song. We haven't really delved into that. We talked about the fact that he made it and it was a big hit, nominated for an Oscar. But what's your take on the song? It was so omnipresent.
I am glad they did not go with the original idea, which is they were just going to use that Wanted Dead or Alive song, the On a Steel Horse I Ride bullshit. Sorry, fans of Wanted Dead or Alive. I don't like that song. This is a way more appropriate song for the film. And I know it's more modern. Obviously, it's a rock song, but no more or less modern than anything Bob Dylan did for Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. I love the video for it. A drive-in on top of a butte in a John Ford Monument Valley like scenario. Like music, well, I'll talk about the song in a second, but music videos at the time when they were for films, basically it would just be a performance thing and then they would cut scenes of the movie in. Here, they fucking integrated a drive-in, which is so part and parcel of the whole Western kind of mythos. So setting that and having the film play that, it was just fucking great. And they light that fucking drive-in movie screen on fire by the end of it. So I watched the video a lot. I've heard the song a lot, and I like the song, actually. It sounds like I was like leading up to smacking it down or something, but it's my favorite Bon Jovi song, if I'm being honest.
It's a very clever rewrite, because let's call it what it is. It is every bit a rewrite of Wanted Dead or Alive. It's a better version of Wanted Dead or Alive, but it's not as if he strayed that far from the formula, but it's a great pop rock song. He's got Jeff Beck playing guitars on that, which is fucking bananas when you think about it. I mean, Jeff fucking Beck, the man's a legend, and he's playing on a Bon Jovi track and he's killing it, right? The slide guitar and everything. It's awesome.
It's gorgeous.
It really is. And it's another one. I don't know that we've kind of gotten past the era where the soundtrack was so important to a movie's success. It was a promotional tool that could really make or break, in some cases, a movie. And it's hard to argue that the success of that song didn't impart some mojo to that movie and make it a popular movie even more popular as a result. I can't think of the last movie where the sound, like, aside from maybe like a Disney movie like Frozen or something, but
it was A Star Is Born.
Shallow. Okay, I guess that's true. I guess
that tradition still continues to this day, but sometimes it feels naked and just a bald attempt to make some money and to get you to get to the theater so they can get even more money out of you. This felt like a film that's in evocation, or rather a song that's an evocation of the film it's meant to embody, and I think it does that.
True. I guess the point that I was leading up to is there was a time when you'd watch the Oscars and the best song was like a murderer's row of popular music and big hits from that year's worth of movies. I can't remember the last time that I watched the Oscars and you got Against All Odds by Phil Collins. That was a fucking huge song, so memorable, and that was an Oscar nominated.
You know
song.
what? That lost to "I Just Called to Say I Love You" by Stevie Wonder. Now, I love Stevie Wonder, HP, but that fucking song was written before that movie, and the rules of the Oscars were supposed to be that the song was written specifically for that film. So that's disqualified. Against All Odds won. I'm Quentin Tarantinoing the history of the Oscars right now.
I'm looking at the list of nominees and the winner from that year's Best Original Song, 1991. Okay, I'm going to read you the list of songs and the movies they came from, and don't cheat. You tell me which one was the winner, okay?
Yep.
We'll start, obviously, Blaze of Glory from Young Guns 2.
Okay.
A song, I can't believe this. Shel Silverstein had a song from the Postcards from the Edge soundtrack called I'm Checking Out. Don't remember that one.
I don't know.
Promise Me You'll Remember.
Wait, no, I do remember it, actually. Okay, go ahead.
Promise Me You'll Remember from The Godfather Part 3.
Okay.
Somewhere in My Memory from Home Alone. That's a John Williams song. I remember that one.
Oof, okay.
And Sooner or Later, I Always Get My Man from Dick Tracy, Stephen Sondheim.
That's the winner.
You're fucking right. I can't believe you guessed it. I'm going to look. I remember
the performance. Are you kidding me? I remembered Madonna saying, "Tell me about it, General Schwarzkopf," just dating it. Hey, everybody, there's a military action going on right now.
Now, I love Stephen Sondheim. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm looking at that list of nominees and I'm thinking of the one that is going to live on beyond 1991 and the decades since, honestly, I'm not trying to blow smoke. Young Guns 2, Blaze of Glory is the hit from that list of songs. That should have won.
It's the clear winner. It's
the clear winner.
It is the song about the movie, for the movie, that describes the movie, draws eyes to the movie. It evokes the movie. It is the movie. A superior version of an initial draft, right? This Young Guns 2 is better than Young Guns. Blaze of Glory is better than Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah. So that's, I guess it's just, it should have won. It should have won. I can't say it any better than that. But it's not as if this is a unique occurrence in the Oscars. How many times we look and, oh, why did that win? That's terrible. But in this case, I think there's a case to be made there. That's all I'm saying.
HP, we've never really spoken of Chavez. And we're not going to hear. Other than the fact that Chavez, as a real human being, did not meet any white horse for many years. He died in the 20th century, as did Josiah Dog Scurlock. He lived until the 20s or 1912, I believe, something like that. So here's the deal. Evidently, scheduling conspired against the film, and Kiefer Sutherland insisted that Doc Scurlock ends his journey at dying and helping Billy the Kid escape. None of that happened. Charlie Beaudry's the one who died during that particular gunfight, but he died in the first film. So instead, Doc gets it here. I guess Fusco fought against it, as he should have, because this I maintain from the first film to this one, this is really Doc's story. And Doc's the one who lives to tell the tale, really. And that should have happened here.
And as we've already pointed out many times, Fusco is a stickler for historical record. That's why the first one was considered so accurate to the times that they lived in. So I can imagine it must have galled him to have to write in the death of a man who didn't die for another 30 years or something. But at the same time, I'm sure he recognized that there's no way around this. To have Sutherland in the picture, they had to make certain allowances. And there might have been a little bit, I mean, famously, I know Harrison Ford fought for years to have Han Solo killed off as a condition of him playing the part. And I could see an element of that. Not that this was a part like Han Solo, which was a career-defining role for Kiefer Sutherland, but I could see him also being like, you know what? I don't know if I want to keep making these Western pictures forever. I don't want to be known as that guy. So you kill me and I'll do the picture. So,
or it's something it's as dramatically appealing as he's the one who finishes the game, so to speak.
It's a great death scene, having said that. He goes out swinging.
Yeah, and we feel it because we love Doc.
But he gets that real Wild Bunch slow motion death, right? Because he's already been shot once. He's dying, and he makes the conscious decision, I will go and I will distract them and you guys can get away. And he gets out there and he gets blown to pieces. You see every squib firing off on his body, and he falls face first into the dirt. What actor wouldn't want to have that glorious Western death, right?
Yeah, not just like shuffling off to Texas to like live his life and become an old man. I want to, if I'm in a Western, that's not how I want to go out.
I want to go out shooting.
God damn right. Dragged by a horse, maybe. I don't know.
There was that accident. Did you hear about that? There was this it was actually life-threatening that happened to Lou Diamond Phillips. You never read this or heard about this?
No, let's talk about Chavez. We've never talked about Chavez.
We're not going to start now. No, apparently there was he was called upon to do an unwritten, unrehearsed stunt on a horse. And he got on the horse. I think it was during the escape from the pit where he had a rope around his neck. And apparently Emilio Estevez shot his gun as part of the scene. The gun spooked the horse that Lou Diamond Phillips was riding. He fell off the horse. He got dragged. I don't know how long, but he could have died. He could have choked basically because he got caught up in the horse and this rope. He broke his arm pretty badly. And that's why
he gets stabbed.
That's why he gets stabbed by Dave Rudabaugh, to hide the fact that he had broken his arm.
By
Isn't
the
that
way,
fascinating?
I loved when he got stabbed. So I don't wish harm on anyone. I'm sorry Lou Diamond Phillips got harmed in the making of the film. That shouldn't happen to anybody. But if that gave us that fucking Rudabaugh stabbing Chavez through the arm during a fight in a Native American graveyard, then fucking no, I shouldn't. I still can't advocate anyone getting hurt.
But it paints Chavez as a badass because he gets stabbed through the arm and the motherfucker barely flinches.
Yeah, man. You know what? We haven't talked about Chavez is a fucking awesome character, man. The scene at the end of Young Guns when he's talking to Dirty Steve and he's, you know how many times I've held a plate up to your throat when you've been asleep?
I love that. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't kill you.
And he's great here, and I believe him. And I thought as soon as he started talking about a white horse at the beginning, I was like, oh man, they're gonna kill Chavez.
It's a damn shame because he is a badass. He's the one who's always twirling the knife around in his hand, which I guess was also a little bit of historical license because apparently he was every bit as good with the rifle as he was with the knife. But Lou Diamond Phillips, he's not often talked about either, but he's a very good actor. He has tons of charisma. He's got that fucking $1 million smile. He's tough. You buy, even though we've talked about this, he's not actually Mexican Native American. He's Filipino with some Scotch Irish and a little bit of, I think, Cherokee on his father's side. But he was able to play a lot of different types of characters ethnically. He played obviously Richie Valens. He played Chavez. He was
that fucking gangbanger in that fucking Teach Me to Read movie.
Stand and Deliver with
Edward
Jaime
James
Escalante.
Olmos.
Yeah, what is he like? I'm not gonna forget it.
My friend Tom Richmond was the director of photography on that movie.
I think I did know that actually.
He was wildly proud of that film because that film actually affected some change in the LA County and the LA school districts.
It's easy to poke fun at that film because it is a little facile and sort of pat, but it's a well-made movie. You're really rooting for these kids. And like you said, Lou Diamond Phillips plays a really tough gangbanger in that movie and you buy him. Like the guy could play Richie Valens. He could play a gang member. He could play a Mexican native.
You just fucking, yeah, okay. I get it. He's something. I believe him. He is. Okay. I guess he's Lebanese. No, he's Mexican. Okay. Is he, what? He's Honduran. Okay.
He's charming too. I can't think of a movie that I've seen with Lou Diamond Phillips where I didn't think, well, he's really good in that. He did that terrible movie with Mark Wahlberg where he was a hitman. He was the best thing in that fucking movie. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was a terrible movie. He was good.
Like I said, he was the best thing about it. He was having fun. He was a badass, a comical badass. He was so good in that.
All right, well,
and he's really good in this. I mean, we're poking fun a little bit, but he's every bit as good as any of the other regulators in both movies.
I love this gang. Because this isn't even the regulators anymore. This is regulators 2.0 maybe, because a lot of them are dead. But this gang in particular, now if Pat Garrett was with them, then it'd be even better. Let's face it. But
one of the things I love is we talked about the first movie where there's a scene towards the end where Billy is kind of having fun with this bounty hunter, basically toying with him until he finally kills him. And the fact that Doc Scurlock, the other ones are still sort of afraid of Billy, and they're just kind of, all right, Billy, whatever you say, Billy. There's a moment in this where Hendry, French, and Chavez have made it to Fort Sumner, and Billy arrives, and Billy comes in, and he's like, hey, boys, how are we? And Hendry just looks at him and says, you're still alive. And he's not saying it like a happy, I'm so happy you're here. It's this great mirror moment from the first movie where he's kind of horrified that Billy is still alive.
Oh no, this has to continue now?
And Chavez is kind of just looking back at him as Hendry says this. And you can see it on his face. The man is dying and he's, oh, fuck. This guy again. Oh my God. As much as they're pals and they're in the same gang, they still don't really like Billy. Let's be honest.
It's going to get on the old Blackbird.
The Mexican Blackbird. That's another. We talked about this a little bit.
We talked about this off air. Yeah. Please.
I just want to point out that this is a little touch that I noticed. Now, people, eagle-eared listeners to this podcast will remember we talked about Crossroads, as Father Malone mentioned earlier. This is the second movie I can think of in the Fusco verse where there's a journey, a trek that's predicated on a lie. Because in Crossroads, the whole notion of Willie Brown taking Eugene down to Mississippi so that he can teach him this lost Robert Johnson song, it's a lie. There's a scene where he tells Eugene the truth, and it's kind of a heavy scene. Well, the same thing happens in Young Guns too. Billy says to them, we got to take the Mexican Blackbird down to Old Mexico. He claims that it's this broken trail only he and another couple guys know about, and they can make it down. So they're all following him because of this knowledge of this trail. But eventually, Billy levels with them and says, the Mexican Blackbird ain't a trail. It's a prostitute that I knew in wherever. It's a nickname I had for this prostitute. There's no trail down to Old Mexico. We're not going to go down to Old Mexico. We're basically going in circles here, which is crushing news.
If Doc was there, he would have kicked him in the face.
He would have gone berserk because it would have been yet another. It was just so frustrating for him. I just thought that's interesting that we have in both of these John Fusco movies, we have this journey that's predicated on a lie that is eventually exposed and kind of crushing for all people involved. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see some of these other movies I'm not familiar with. Is there a betrayal of sorts in The Babe? In
Hidalgo, he convinces everyone that he's bringing a camel and he brings a horse.
Is that a heavy moment at the end of the movie where they have to reconsider their allegiances?
No, it's right as soon as the race begins that we get that reveal. Because it's really hard to disguise the fact that he's actually got a fucking horse.
I love that term, the Mexican Blackbird, because it sounds like it could be just a name for some weird
trail. It could be anything. It sounds like it could be a taco stand. What are you talking about? Billy, what are you doing to us, man? Why are you running us in circles just so you can continue to have a fucking good time?
Yeah, do you know what Mexican Blackbird actually is, apparently?
What?
It's a ZZ Top song.
Ah.
From 1975, yeah. Don't know what it's about. Never heard it, but
it's about a Mexican whore, of course.
It's off of, what album is it off of? I don't know. Fandango is the name of the album, apparently.
Oh my God, not Deguayo?
No, not Eliminator.
Not
what was the one?
Not that one.
No. Not the one with the
two beards and a mustache. Now, Dean Semler was the director of photography on both movies. The first film is so muted and like earth toned. And now we get the sort of John Ford, like red rock gorgeousness with sunsets blazing and fucking the Old West. As you said, if their intention was to make everything they didn't in the first Young Guns, they accomplished it, man. They lapped that first movie and they've got a guano town here.
Now, what is the deal with the guano town? They're mining for bat guano.
Yeah.
What is that used for?
Have you not had guano? It's delicious.
Is it a fertilizer thing? Is that why there's a great line?
There's a town in Ecuador called Guano.
I knew that.
It's a heavy fertilizer, of course.
There you go. I did not know that. Dave Rudabaugh has a great line after the guy says, they're like, what are you mining? Guano. Well, what's guano? A bat shit. And he goes, I have been to Silver Town. I've been to Turquoise Town, but I ain't never been to a bat shit town.
Every town these fucking idiots end up in is a bat shit town.
It's a bat shit. Totally. Yeah. One thing I have to bring up, this is a quick thing, just for my own, I just have to mention this. Frankly, Father Malone, I don't know how they didn't injure any of those horses in this movie. Horses in this movie, they perform stunts that I don't know that I've ever seen in a movie prior to this. There's a scene where they go over a cliff. There's horses tumbling over people. There's horses getting shot and falling down and rearing up and all this kind of stuff. I'm sure there was one of those no animals were harmed in the making of this movie disclaimers at the end, but goddamn, I don't know what kind of wrangler magician they had on this movie, but it's pretty remarkable. These horses went through a lot. Did you notice that?
Well, they seem to have gone through a lot, but I guarantee you that they did not. I can fairly guarantee that the ASPCA was monitoring all of the action going on here in this American production taking place on American soil. I think if you go and look at a movie like, I don't know, Conan the Barbarian, or say anything by Sam Peckinpah, you are going to see some horrific fucking shit going down with horses. I think all of the stuff looks really brutal here, and I can say without saying that those horses are okay. Whereas, even though, look, all of the horses we're talking about in all of these movies, they're all dead now. But I think some of them might have died during the filming of The Wild Bunch.
That makes sense. Ben-Hur, I think there was probably a lot of animal fatalities.
Oh
in
my God,
Ben-Hur.
I'm
You talked
sure
about that.
everything was killed. I'm sure they killed stuntmen and didn't care when they were making Ben-Hur. Written by Governor Lew Wallace.
That's why I bring it up. Yeah, that's famously, the chariot scenes are famously lethal from that movie because it was a time before you had these protections for animals and people. So, but I think I'm sure that you're right, but boy, it looks like those horses went through a lot in this movie. They're really worked over something fierce. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that's the last thing I had in my notes was how the fuck did they not kill a horse in this movie? But no.
I will say this in summation. William Petersen makes that handlebar mustache look good.
And he cleans up good though. Like when he looks every bit the outlaw when he's got the long hair, but when he becomes quote unquote respectable and he's got the badge and his short hair, he fixes up his mustache.
When he's the outlaw, when he's got that Mobius strip where the mustache meets the hairline and continues around the head, he looks fucking awesome. That's a tough look to pull off. William Petersen fucking nails it.
It is. And he's got that. There's a great scene when he's about to set fire to the whorehouse. I love when people can light matches off of like the sheriff badge. I love that. He does that great.
Nice little close up of him doing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a good shot.
Is there anything else about this movie? Let's talk. You know what? Here's the thing. This is the best Billy the Kid movie of all time. Just bar none. Sorry, everybody. This is the one. I've watched all of them. I have seen them all. I've watched them all again recently, as a matter of fact. I watched Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid last night. And I've seen that one a lot, actually. But I've gone back. I looked at some of the early ones from the 40s, the left-handed gun and all that bullshit when they were wearing kerchiefs a lot and being really nice to each other when they weren't shooting each other. And I think just creatively, thematically, dramatically, this is the movie that gets it. It digs into the legends. It gives us the historical facts. It plays with the genre while embracing it entirely. And then the filmmaking on display is just fucking fantastic. Geoff Murphy should be commended. I think it's one of the best looking Westerns of all time. It moves. The action is really good. And, you know, it's, again, grounded not only in this fucking great screenplay, but a fucking central performance in Emilio Estevez that I think he's yet to top. And I'm not saying doesn't have anything in him. I'm just saying this character is so fucking indelible, to me, as indelible as any Darth Vader or fucking Indiana Jones. Like, this is when I think Emilio Estevez, then my next thought is now Billy the Kid.
Well, I think time has only proven you right. I think at that time, I hate to say it, but I think he was still being painted with the Brat Pack brush. I think a lot of them were. And I don't think that he was really given the chance to prove himself as the great actor that we know that he is. I mean, the man's been doing it forever now. And I think he's fantastic in this. I think critically, I think it's due for a reappraisal. I think it's a great movie. It holds up awesome for a movie from 1990. What are we talking, 35 years on? That's remarkable in and of itself because it's so... Look, I don't want to use the word timeless because that makes this sound like this was up there with Once Upon a Time in the West, but there is a timeless quality to it. You can watch this movie now and enjoy yourself. It's not dated. The acting is wonderful. The story moves. The direction is really on point in a way that the first movie kind of missed the mark there. You're going to love it. I mean, if you haven't seen Young Guns 2, what are you waiting for? Check it out.
Yeah, the 90s had a pretty fucking great resurgence in Westerns. I'm not the biggest fan of Unforgiven. I see it as a career capper that, you know, for Eastwood, that it's an appropriate end to his Western career. But that movie belongs to Gene Hackman after all. But the actual Westerns, to me, of the 90s were Young Guns 2 and Tombstone and maybe The Quick and the Dead.
Well, Dances. Look, I'm
no,
not.
shut up with your Dances with Wolves. I don't care if Dean Semler, director of photography here, was also the director of photography on Dances with Wolves. I don't like that movie.
Time has not been kind to Dances with Wolves, and I will admit that. But if you're talking about the 90s resurgence of the Western, you cannot say that without including Dances with Wolves. That 1991 Oscars that we talked about, that was the famous Dances with Wolves Oscars. That won all kinds of fucking awards.
I know, and they should take them all back and give them all to somebody else.
It was an important movie for its time, and part of the larger.
You're an important movie for your time, HP.
I'm just saying, man, it was
an important movie.
Part of that.
This movie is an important movie at this time for Westerns. This is a more important movie than Dances with Wolves. Young Guns 2, hot take. Young Guns 2 is a better and more important Western than Dances with Wolves. Easily. That's a hill I'll die on.
That is a hot take.
Is it better than Unforgiven? Yes. Yes, it is. This is a better Western than Unforgiven. Is it better than Once Upon a Time in the West? I don't know.
It's a classic Western in a way that we hadn't seen Westerns like that for a long time, right?
Is it better than Hang 'em High? Yes, it's better than Hang 'em High.
Are we going to go through? Is it better than the outlaw Josie Wales? Yes.
I don't know. You said Josie Wales. That's tough because that's hallucinatory and weird.
What was the one with Willie Nelson? Is it better than the Redheaded Stranger or whatever?
Fuck yeah, it's better than the Redheaded Stranger. What are you, crazy?
No. But I think the thing we can agree on, like I said, is that this was a wonderful return. And this is completely by design. This is a real old school Western given to us in a way that we hadn't for years.
HP, do you remember the Tom and Jerry cartoon took place on a dude ranch, and Jerry had a relative who was a little cowboy, and he used to sing Froggy Went a Courtin'?
No.
And he would come on and he would sing Froggy Went a Courtin', he did ride trombone like that, and he kept breaking his guitar strings, and every time he would break a guitar string, he would go rip off of one of Tom's whiskers and restring the guitar, and Tom kept freaking out. Every time he would hear the guitar string, he would like get all panicky and run. That's the classic.
Okay.
Young Guns 2 is better. Thank you for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. HP, where can people find you if they're looking for you?
Oh, man, when I'm not, I don't have a pithy thing. When I'm not watching movies, you can find me elsewhere on the Weirding Way Network. I co-host the Night Mr. Walters Taxi podcast with my erstwhile companion here, my co-host, Father Malone, and I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. I also host the Noise Junkies music podcast. If you want to hear someone nerd out over music, go check that out. And I have, speaking of music, I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. That's a mouthful. I just released not long ago a new album called Wired and Waiting. Please give that a listen if you wish. And yeah, that's where you can find me. How about you, Father Malone? Where else can we find you? What kind of stuff? What shenanigans are you up to?
Nothing. I don't do anything but this show. Listen, the links are going to be obviously in the comment section, whatever the fuck we call that, for HP's music, which you need to go listen to immediately. It's fucking great. It's like music for an 80s film that never existed. That's a fun premise, and it delivers. If you're looking for me, you find me right here. And if you want to give me some cash, go to patreon.com/Father Malone. You're going to get episodes early and commercial free, and you'll get bonus series, some of which are hosted by HP and myself, like Cable Box Theater, where we look at theatrical productions that were filmed for early cable television. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Young Guns 2. Here it is.
You remember John Tunstall? Remember the stories he tell us about the three Chinamen playing Fan-Tan? Someone runs up to him and says, "Hey, the world is coming to an end." And the first one says, "Well, I best go to the mission and pray." And the second one says, "Well, hell, I'm gonna go buy me a case of mezcal and 6 whores." And the third one says, "Well, I shall finish the game. I shall finish the game, Doc."
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.